All right, today we're just going to review something that we've already talked about in 6th grade with solving proportions. So in case you forgot, proportions are two equivalent ratios. So a ratio is a comparison between two numbers. A rate is a special kind of ratio where it is a comparison between two unlike things, like miles per gallon. And then the proportions are two equivalent ratios at rate. So we don't have any words right now to say what this 5 and what this 10 represents, but maybe it's 5 girl students to every 10 boy students, and anything like that, or 5 miles per every 10 gummy bears or something like that. Maybe every 5 miles you eat 10 gummy bears on a road trip. Something silly like that we can even think of. So what we're going to do when we solve proportions, one of the first and easiest ways to look for is what's called a scale factor. So in case you forgot what scale factor is, a scale factor is a number that is multiplied. So we're looking for a number that we multiply to get to the other part. So there's a couple of ways we can show you this, and we want to make sure we know that math vocabulary because your math teachers will be saying these phrases, and we want to make sure that you understand what's happening. So we could do proportions. Another way we're going to talk about is cross multiplying and dividing, and that will work for every single proportion. But if you can look for a scale factor, it's going to be a little bit more efficient. And here's what I mean by that. We're saying 5 to 10 is equal to 35 to x. So we know that these are equivalent. So we could cross multiply 10 times 35 and divide by 5. But there's actually a faster way. We can see from 5 to 35, I can multiply by 7. And what I do to the top from left to right, I'm going to do to the bottom from left to right. Okay? And it's very important that you draw your arrows because sometimes people are trying to do too many of these things in their head and they accidentally multiply the wrong numbers and fall for the trick. So 10 times 7 is 70. Now this one right here is called a between scale factor. The reason why it's called a between is you are between these two ratios. Now there's another actually on this problem. If you know, and again, you're going to be drawing your arrows from the numbers that you know. So we knew both numbers on the left and we were trying to get to the right. Okay? And so we knew the relationship from 5 to 35 was times 7. But there's actually another scale factor on this problem. Sometimes this happens and sometimes it doesn't. But if you look, the numerators on both are 5 and 35. So let's see if we can get from 5 to 10. Well, from there, you can do 5 times 2. So what I do on the left from top to bottom, I'm going to do on the right from top to bottom. So 35 times 2, if you work that out, 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1, you get the same thing. And what this is called is a within scale factor because you are looking within one ratio at a time. Okay? Even if you were to cross multiply and divide, 10 times 35 is 350. 350 divided by 5, you're going to get the same answer. So yes, cross multiply and divide will work every time, but if you can find a scale factor either between, that's either left to right or right to left, within is from top to bottom or bottom to top, it's going to be a little bit more efficient for your time. So I'm going to do 2 more with you, again using that vocabulary to help you out and just review that for you. And then you're going to have some practice problems on your own. So let's look at number 5. So we're going to do number 1, number 5, and number 11. And then we'll have some practice problems for you too. All right. So on this one, you need to look at the numbers you know. We know 5 and 7 and 2/10. That's okay that we have a decimal there. We can have a decimal there. That's perfectly fine. Then we have 25 over x. So we can look and see, can I get from 5 to 7 and 2/10 by multiplying? Well, technically you can, but it would be by a decimal. So when we're looking for these scale factors, we want to try and use nice, clean, whole numbers to make it a little bit easier for our brain. So if I try to go, and I know that I'm not going from the bottom to the top because I don't know both bottom numbers. I know both numerators, the top numbers. So 5 times something would be 7.2, but that's not a nice, clean, whole number. So let's see if I can go, I know both numbers on the left. Well, I can get from 5 to 25 by multiplying by 5. So my scale factor between was 7 on this one. My within scale factor is 2. On this one, my between scale factor is 5. So that way when your teacher asks, well, what did you get the scale factor? How did you get there? We know what you did. Again, we know both numbers on the left, and we're going toward the right. So what I do to the top from left to right, I'm going to do to the bottom from left to right. And they don't always have to go left to right. Sometimes they'll go right to left. They don't always have to go from the top to the bottom. Sometimes they'll go bottom to the top. You just have to look for that pattern. So 7 2/10 times 5. Remember, when we multiply decimals, we line up the digits. Pretend the decimal's not there for just a minute. There's one number after the decimal here. No numbers after the decimal here. So 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 7 is 35. Plus 1 is 36. So we're pretending like we're multiplying 72 times 5. Then you add up 1 plus 0 is 1. So we want one number after the decimal in our final answer. So we move 1 to the left. So x is equal to 36. So if you had 5 groups, the 7.2, or think about that as money, $7.20. If you had 5 groups of it, you actually have $36. And again, you can use estimation to help you out. This is around 7. 7 times 5 is 35, so you know your answer is going to be a little bit over 35. That way, if they had 360 as an answer, you knew that that was way too big. So use some of those common sense things for you, those math reasoning skills to help you solve. All right, let's look at one more problem together. So this one has 2 over 10 is equal to 7 over x. Okay, so again, I know both numbers on the top, so let's see if I have a between scale factor. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So this is going to be times 2 times 3 point something. So we don't want to do that because it's not, we want to try and use a nice clean whole number. We know both the top numbers, so let's see. Can I get from 2 to 10? Sure can. 2 times 5 is 10. So that's my within scale factor because within that ratio itself, I'm doing 2 times 5. And what I do to the left from the top to the bottom, I'm going to do to the right from top to bottom. So x equals 35. And again, you could prove this mathematically if you had 35 right here. 35 times 2 is 70, and that's equal to 10 times 7. You can only cross multiply if there's an equal sign in between it, and we're going to talk about cross multiplying more a little bit later. But we just wanted to review with you guys today about the scale factor because it is a little bit more efficient with your time rather than cross multiplying and dividing every single time. Okay? So if you need to rewatch this video just to review the between and within vocabulary, because you will be hearing those terms in your class, please make sure you rewatch it. Again, if you have any questions, just reach out to your teacher.